Hello. In this video, I'm going to give a brief introduction to polynomial functions and explain the trifecta. The trifecta is the important relationship between factors of a polynomial, zeros of the polynomial, and x-intercepts of the graph of the polynomial. This is going to be a brief introduction to functions. If you've never seen functions before, you might want to Google for a more basic introduction. The definition I'm going to look at first of all here is that a function is a rule in which each input has exactly one output. The inputs are typically going to be x values. The corresponding output values will be y values on a graph. The first example I'd like to look at is y equals x cubed minus 4x squared plus x plus 6. This is a cubic polynomial. And let's go right to the graph. Here I'm using GeoGebra. And let's put x at 1. X equals 1, and I get this point on the graph. Let's see what happens when we plug 1 into our equation. When we plug 1 into the equation, we get y equals 1 cubed minus 4 times 1 squared plus 1 plus 6. And now let's see what that is if we do the arithmetic. 1 minus 4 plus 1 plus 6 will be y equals 4. And we see that on the graph. We have a y value here of 4. Let me go ahead and put in a couple of these segments here so that you can see what's going on. This goes up to the point, and then right here is the y value, the output. We see here that the x value is 1 and the y value is 4. Now I'd like to manipulate my x value here a little bit and take a look at a few more points on this polynomial. We can see that x sometimes is, in this case, between 2 and 3, and y is negative. X could be negative over here. In this case, x and y are both negative. Let's come over here to 4 and take a look. When x equals 4 and we plug it into our formula, we get y equals 10. Now there's 3 very important points on this particular graph where the function value is 0. It occurs here at 3. It occurs at 2. And finally, it occurs at x equals negative 1. So let's see how this works in a table. In our first example, we saw that when we plugged in 1, we got 4. We also found out when we plugged in 4, we got 10. When we plug in 3, we get 0. There were 3 places where the output is 0 at 3, 2, and negative 1. And just for completeness, x can be any real number here. Let's use 0.5. Let's plug in 0.5. When we plug in 0.5, we get 5.625. Just one more that's always important, and that's plugging in 0. When we plug in 0 for x, we get 6. Now I'd like to look at a second example, y equals 2x plus 6. This is a first degree polynomial because x is only to the first power. Y equals 2x plus 6. And here's our graph. This time when we put in 1, we get 8. And we see that there are various values that we get for outputs. In this particular case, there's only one location. There's only one x value, and that's negative 3 when y is 0. And let's see how that works in the equation. If we want y to be 0, if we want the output to be 0, we get this. And then to solve this, we would subtract 6 from both sides, and then divide by 2 and get an answer of negative 3. Before we proceed, I want to give you a few synonyms. Functions are very common in mathematics, and we have lots of ways of talking about the input values and the output values. The input is sometimes called a first component of the ordered pair, a first coordinate, an x-coordinate, a domain element, an independent variable, and so on. The output might be called a y-coordinate, a y value, an f of x value, a dependent variable, and you can see there are many synonyms for input and output. In mathematics, we are very interested in finding out when a polynomial will take on a value of 0. And the following are equivalent. A 0 of a polynomial is an x value that causes it to be 0, a root of the polynomial, and a solution of the equation formed by setting the polynomial equal to 0. Now I'd like to look at the trifecta. So the first thing we need to do is look at factors of a polynomial. Let's start with a quadratic. Here we have the second degree polynomial function y equals x squared minus x minus 12. And we are frequently interested in trying to find out when y is 0. So I'm trying to solve this equation. Remember, that means finding solutions or finding roots or finding zeros. We do that by factoring. So let's go ahead and factor x squared minus x minus 12. We factor it into x minus 4 times x plus 3, which gives us two solutions. X equals 4 is a solution, and also x equals negative 3 is a solution. And I think you can predict what's going to happen on the graph. Let's take a look at the graph of y equals x squared minus x minus 12. Here we can see the graph, and yes, we do get a value of 0 at x equals 4, and again over here at x equals negative 3. So let's state the trifecta. Every time you have a factor of a polynomial, for example, x minus 4, there's my factor, x minus 4. We're going to have a 0 of the polynomial, x equals 4. Because when I plug in 4, I get 16 minus 4 minus 12, which is in fact 0. And I'm going to have an x-intercept of the graph, which is the point 4, 0. The factor gives the 0, gives the x-intercept. We could do the same thing with negative 3. This is the trifecta. My name is Jim Olson. Stay tuned for the next video. Have a great day.